A lot of people can't hear it.
Time to shine.
Right here, this part. Right there. You hear that little? You hear it?
I do, yeah.
Man, that intro music really just makes me want to like light fires and dance naked and stuff. You know, like it's.
I just wanted to dance, man. But if you want,
Shit. Welcome back to another
Thank
episode
you.
of On the Throne with Dick. Shout out to Senjin Boychuk for that intro outro music, and I'm excited for this week's episode. I'm pretty pumped actually. I recently sat down and had coffee with Omar Mohammad, from Edmonton here. The future mayor of Edmonton, and I'm excited to have him. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How you doing, man? How's your day's been? Good so far?
It's coming to an end. The last couple of weeks have been pretty stressful. I'm not gonna lie. One thing after another, from writing off my car to, dealing with, post-injury stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of my days off here. I'm going back to work in a couple days. By the time you hear this, I've been back to work for about a week. But so I'm heading back to work here. It's not an ideal situation. I don't want to get into it, but it's been very stressful the last couple of days. It just seems like just as things are starting to calm down, the phone rings and it's some more news, right? And it's like, wow, like when does this shit stop?
I hear you, man. It's I'm mid 40s now, so it's just like job after job after job just keeps piling up. And I always talk to men my age, just particularly workers, grinders. If we're doing the heavy lifting. I was a mechanic for many years, and maintain friendships with a lot of these guys, and they working really hard and taking care of yourselves, getting checked out by the doctors. A very common theme nowadays. And health is so important, but also working through those injuries. Don't sit still. Push through. That's where a lot of us are at right now. And I feel we don't talk about that enough.
No, we don't. And the podcast has been pretty. We're pretty big on blue collar and mental health and combining the two. Well, we don't talk a lot about what happens when a blue collar guy gets injured at work and the mental health toll that takes, right?
Absolutely.
And then it's not just the mental health toll of sitting around and healing and waiting for things to get better, but then integrating back into the workforce afterwards, right? A lot has changed in 4 months, right? I'm not the same guy I was 4 months ago, maybe a lot of people that have listened to this podcast for quite a while, they've seen that transformation just in the last 4 months, never mind the last 2 years, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, a lot of things, whenever you take even a big chunk of time off work, and as life goes on, things change. And so it's like going to that new job again. And sometimes there's that, pre-work nerves again. And that takes a stress of its own, getting back into the regular grind of things, So yeah, I hear you, brother.
Yeah, I remember the last time I was there, I got hurt, right?
Yeah, that's true. And
that's the mind, right?
Back to your mind.
Am I going to get hurt again? This is the place where I got injured.
Right.
Am I going to get injured again? Right. A lot of other things were happening in my life at that point in time too, that take me back. Well, last time I was here, I felt like this. Mm-hmm. And over the last 4 months, I've healed in these ways. Right. And, the podcast was sponsored by BetterHelp for the last 3 months. Right. So, we talked a lot of good mental health stuff, and I got free therapy out of that. Right. So I learned a lot about myself in that time. Right. So yeah, it was pretty cool, pretty scary, very emotional.
Very good. And I'm glad to hear that, a lot of guys our age, particularly my age, even getting therapy sometimes is a taboo thing. And, it always helps to talk things out, to organize your own thoughts. And I strongly advise anybody, yourself, feel free, reach out. There's a lot of resources online, and don't be afraid to get help, or get some advice or get some therapy. Therapy is not, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's, can help you organize your thoughts. And would you say, you're a stronger person because of it, so.
Oh man, I'm a better person. That's for sure. Maybe, who knows?
I like you, man. Yeah. So
to find out, I guess.
Yeah.
So man, we were sitting down. I remember when we were having coffee there a couple weeks ago, right? And you were telling me where you're from originally. Like you're because your name's Omar Mohammad, right?
That's right, sir. Yeah.
So like, okay, where are you from? Like what's your background? What's your ethnicity?
So my
This really threw me for a loop.
Yeah, so nationally, my dad is Pakistani, but originally from Bihar, India, so from India. And my mom is a maritimer, so I'm Scottish, Irish, French, but I'm Viking. So I spit one of those containers. I'm 51% Viking, brother. So I'm a mutt. I'm born here in Edmonton. My parents met in the 70s. It was probably some wild times. How they got together. I wish I was more presently there to kind of find out how that went down. But yeah, I'm the result. Omar Mohammad. Most people go by me as I'm a half Pakistani, half Newfie. I'm an East Coast brown guy, right? So that's you don't find too many of my kind.
No, man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's what I thought, and you told me, oh yeah, I thought I heard Newfie in there, right? Like I
Right.
asked you, that's why I asked you at first, and you're like, yeah, I'm like Middle Eastern sort of Newfie. And I'm like, wait, what stuff? Like it's crazy.
Yes, sir.
That's wild.
Amen to that, man. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. We had, growing up, got to have that mixed culture experience in Edmonton, Alberta, right? So the Pakistani side got to celebrate East Coast Christmas. Santa's my brother. And all the East Coast Christmas carols, and it was a big hodgepodge growing up. So yeah, I got a good perspective and a good love for everybody. So
Jig's dinner, right?
yeah, absolutely. But bye.
Yes, far. No, fuck, man, that's awesome, dude. Man, like what originally attracted me to you. I saw your video of you rapping about running for mayor and the things you want to change and stuff like that, right? And
Mhm.
I was like, what the hell is this, right? And then it turns out, hey, you're a mayor. You're not a mayor, you're a dentist. Sorry,
That's
you're
right.
a
Yeah.
dentist. You're running for mayor. Sorry, I got. I was gonna say you're a mayor running for a dentist. No. But yeah, you're a dentist. You're running for mayor. You sold your practice so you
That's
could
right.
essentially do this.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, you got a unique style for music. You're a rapper too, right?
Well, I'm not a rapper per se. Yeah, that was my first rap song I ever did, but I'm a doer. I
Yeah,
really believe in creating. I really believe in, doing what I say. And, that idea popped in my head. I reached out from an old buddy, from back in the day
yeah.
and try something new. Yeah, a lot of people like the song. I mean, I don't call myself a rapper, but I mean, I guess I officially am a recording artist now that I have one track out. And yeah, I'm a doer, and I like to do things and put my full heart out into whatever I do, and no regrets, right? And I'm really happy. And when people say they like the song, a lot of people have told me that, and it makes you feel good, right? But
Yeah.
just it's a check mark, a big check mark. I also do ring announcing. It's another one of those same kind of let's just do
You
it,
hear
let's
it in
just
your
go.
voice.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. So I do that and auctioning. I'm a charity auctioneer. I've been auctioning since 2015. Raised millions of dollars for local initiatives because I like to get fulfilled that way. But I like to have fun doing things, and I like to do things 100% as best as I possibly can always. So
I
yeah,
love that.
and now we're running for mayor because we see the the problems in our city. So and I'm
Yeah.
not a talker. I'm a doer, and that's where hopefully that gives you kind of my archetype of where I lay there. So
You want to walk the walk and talk the talk.
that's right. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, can you auction something off for us right now?
Sure, we'll auction off that hat to any of the listeners right now. We got a 10, a bit, a 10, a bit, a 1. Now bid now, who'd have bid 200? 2 and a bit 3 and a bit now 4, who'd have bid 500? Now we got 6 and 7 and a bit, now 9. 9 a bit, 9 a bit, a 10 a bit, a 10 a bit, a 1. There you go. We got $1,000 for your hat to George over there.
George, guy
Sold.
with no hat on. Now you
There
have a
you
hat.
go. You got a hat.
I love that. I actually learned, what was it, last summer? Maybe I think it was last summer. I learned that auctioneering is actually a trade.
It is, yeah, and you can go to school for it. But me being in the charitable sector, I've been around the world doing development sustainability. I kind of rolled in these circles, and because of it, I've been around charity auctioneers quite a bit. My brother-in-law is an auctioneer, and I just kind of fell into it, and it was I was sold the first time I tried it out. The excitement, bringing people together for a positive cause. There was a lot of good in it, and it's a nice cheap way to give back without having to fully give back, because the going rate's usually 10%, which I donate back. But it's a cool way to give back. So there's no negatives for me auctioning, and it is a dying art. With the online auctions, just like a lot of industries. And I like to keep that energy alive, because, hey, man, if we can get money towards the right initiatives with causing positive energy, why the heck not? So that's yeah. So it's one of my favorite things to do. I'll fly places to do auctioning. So any charity auctioneers or auctions out there, contact me. It's if I'm available, it's always a yes.
Love that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, brother.
So as we were saying, like you're a dentist, right? And you have this practice, or had this practice, that you recently sold to run for mayor. How did you become a dentist? Because like I remember you saying that you were homeless at one point. That's right. Were a heavy duty mechanic at one point. Like
light duty, yeah, not heavy duty, but yeah.
How did we get from light duty to homeless to dentist to where you are now?
Oh my goodness! All right, so growing up here in Edmonton, been scattered quite a bit. I went out east. I still have a little bit of an East Coast twang to me, but as young as I remember, moved all the way out to Moncton, New Brunswick. Came back here. First time slipped in a shelter was probably about grade 5. Second time, grade 8. First time on my own, grade 8, selling friendship bracelets. Kind of hustling, trying to grind, getting some food together. And
Taylor Swift would be proud.
Yeah, the GIM bracelets. And the last time I slept in my car was 17. But really how I got ahead was always, one thing I'd have to say is that I've always been a give backer. And because of that, I've always surrounded myself with people that are better than me. And, Edmonton back then was such a different place. There were so many more resources. It was the relationships I made here in Edmonton which allowed me to break that threshold. And, I went to university, grinded, just so it was a thing to do, surrounding yourself with people doing the same. And, eventually became a dentist. And, while I was a dental student, I've, always given back and traveling around the world. And then I get a call from the director of the University of Manitoba Pediatric Dental Department asking me to specialize in pediatric dentistry. And so a lot of that was due to my work with kids. And, sometimes people are listening that you otherwise don't see. And, and then I've been a pediatric dental surgeon here in Edmonton since 2016. Prior to which, I've had a lot of jobs. I've been a mechanic. I used to work for Crosstown Motors, a popsicle man, deliver newspapers, you name it. I've done tons of jobs here in Edmonton, always working hard. But again, Edmonton was so much different back then. Things were more affordable. A guy like me could actually break through. It was less of a threshold to break. And, that's kind of my long story short to my journey. But, ever since I've been back, I've been seeing these tents pop up. And I'm like, what the heck happened? And, I finally had enough. So I jumped in the race to run for mayor of Edmonton here.
Good for you, man. We lived in Edmonton. Jeez, how long ago was that? Oh man, we lived in Edmonton, for 6 years. We came from Ontario. We went to BC, Saskatchewan, Edmonton. Lived here for 6 years, and then we moved back to Ontario for a little bit. And then when we came back, we went to Calgary, right? And we were there for 2 years. We've been back here in Edmonton for, north side of Edmonton, 2 years now. 2.5 years, I'd say. And so altogether, like 8 years in Edmonton, right? And, the first 6 years we were here, man, it was even a different city then, it hasn't been very long where, the city's kind of been the way it is. It's only been in the last few years, right? That's and right. One thing I noticed was, there's a lot more tents. There's a lot more, there's a lot more drugs on the street. There's a lot more, just a lot more crime. And you and I were talking about that, when we were having coffee, it's not even the drugs on the street that's the worry, right? It's what about the drugs in the houses that we're not seeing?
That's right.
You're seeing all these people overdosing on the street. What about the people that you're not seeing overdose in their house? Right. And that's sad, man. My daughter and I, we were walking to the park a couple weeks back, and We went through a parkette near our house, and she's like, "Look, Dad, there's some homeless people over there." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I wonder what their origin story is." Right?
Wow,
And she's 5, right?
that's
She's 5,
amazing. That's yeah.
right?
You don't hear that. Yeah.
No, and, I'm like, it probably starts with, a little bit of a hard time, right? So yeah, it's pretty wild, when you think about that. And, um, I last year, maybe 2 winters ago now, I saw someone get Narcan for the first time
Oh wow.
downtown. I
Hmm.
had never seen that before, right? And she was like, just
Yeah.
lying there like that. Her 2 friends were on either side of her. One they were both crying, and some guy was like slapping her in the face, right?
Hmm.
And then he pulls something out of his pocket, stabs her in the leg, and she's like, right, and just like she was gone, and then she's not. She's here, right? And
Hmm.
that's sad. That is very sad.
That's right, and we're seeing. And you're absolutely right. So opiates is, it's all over our streets in Edmonton. It's also in our house. Usually pharmaceuticals, drug companies and whatnot. But the big problem on our streets, yeah, now that we didn't have back in 2009 when we had a big plan to end homelessness, is there's a lot of fentanyl on our streets, and
Yep.
fentanyl is an opiate. It's highly addictive, to the point where withdrawal effects themselves can actually cause death. But what you're seeing is you're having a lot of people overdose a lot, and to the point where we've have ambulances response times completely change. If you get a heart attack now in Edmonton, and this is from one of the senior EMS workers, you'll be waiting on average about 12 minutes now for an ambulance to arrive, when it used to be 8. And I'll tell you, those 4 minutes in our heart attack, really matter, and you've got Edmontonians dying. And now, for me, the answer is not adding more ambulances. The answer is, why do people need ambulances to begin with, right? We have to have a little bit more upstream thinking. That has to deal with mental health, addiction supports, and with the homelessness situation, housing first solutions. This actually will save us money in the long run,
Yeah.
and not that much long run. We always judge a city how we treat the vulnerable. And right now, I strongly believe Edmonton is failing. We know better. Now is the time to do better. So,
Yep.
yeah, you're absolutely right, sir.
When I had my accident, I was given fentanyl almost right away.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, hell of a drug, right? Couldn't feel anything, but it felt good, that's for sure,
Hmm.
right? And I didn't even get that much, right? It wasn't that much. It was barely anything. It was enough to keep me from feeling anything,
Hmm.
right? And I was just like, whoa, right? And I was joking around with the nurses at the hospital, I'm like, hey, someone go get me a booster juice, all right? And they said something like, they were like, sorry, you're not allowed to have anything oral. And I'm like, I never said it was gonna be oral, right? Just laughing
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
right?
right.
And
Hmm.
but like just stuff like that. And yeah, man, like I get it. I understand. I've said that a bunch of times, like
Hmm.
when you see the people that fall on hard times, right? And they're
Hmm.
living out on the street. I understand. I get why they're doing it. I get it. I don't support it. I don't like it, but I
Yeah.
understand. You're trying to numb yourself to your situation, right?
Hmm.
And that's you shouldn't even be in that situation.
No. So, I work solely with kids, man. I'm a pediatric dental surgeon. So I always ask kids what you want to be when you're older. It's one of the questions I ask every single patient. I'll tell you, 0 kids ever say they want to be homeless. 0 kids ever say they want to be addicted to opiates, right? Nobody wants to be a crackhead, if I can, be blunt. Nobody says that.
Yeah.
A lot of things have had to have gone wrong in your life for you to end up homeless. A lot of things have had to have gone wrong in your life for you to want to, be in that situation where you're addicted to drugs. Now, big, a philosophy of mine is that, and this is in research as well, is that, if we really want to combat addictions here, it's not only about sobriety, getting off the drug. You could hold somebody down for 60 days and, eventually get the drugs out of their system. And anybody that's, dealt with this, with a family member or anybody close to them will understand that there's a high rate of people going back to the drug. It's because you haven't solved all the problems, right? It's not about sobriety. It's about connection, right? And
Yeah,
that's
you
why
said
I'm
that. Yeah.
right. I'm a very strong advocate of vocational services in housing first solutions, mental health supports, addiction supports, and vocational services. And we were talking a little bit about going back to work. Work also gives you stability. It gives you a social group. But most importantly, and part of it, is that it gives you financial stability, which is a lot of reasons why people get depressed to begin with, because we're a commerce environment. We need to buy things to survive. And if you can give people some solutions, you'll actually see in research, I'm not making this up, that you'll have a way less people going back to the opiates. And we've got to start implementing these real world solutions that actually work.
Yeah. You were saying, building the houses and stuff like that, and it'll cost money to build that and feed all these resources, right? And people are gonna be like, well, where are we gonna get the money from? And then you were telling me, some secrets, that the city doesn't want you to know, where they're wasting it, right? They're just throwing hundreds of millions of dollars away.
Well, it depends who you ask, right? But I strongly believe that Edmontonians don't want the kind of projects that are being built around Edmonton. When you actually start digging and you look at $320 million rec centers that look like works of art, when we have 5,000 people that are homeless and about 1,000 putting their face on the concrete tonight to go to sleep, well, then you got to start asking yourself, well, is that the way we should be going? All while property taxes are going up. And it's affecting us all. I'm a person that wants to run. I'm running for mayor because I want to put forward things that affect all Edmontonians, that are going to benefit all Edmontonians. And one of those is security. When home insecurity goes down, food insecurity goes down, guess what happens to actual security? It also goes down. Right? Yeah.
When everything goes down. When everything goes down,
we're going to be less secure. Crime is going to go up. Yes. And that's what's going to happen. People are going to become more desperate or more in need. It's not even out of greed. I've been there. I mean, I know that spot. I know when you have nothing, what your mentality is. And if you don't get that filled, you're going to find that one way or another. And so crime goes up. Right. And now we've got fentanyl on the streets, which, increases that level of desperation. We need some real solutions here, and for all of us. And that's not building libraries that look like works of art. Libraries, yes. Works of art libraries. Let's reconsider that. Bike lanes, yes. Bike lanes on the middle of 199th Street and 194th Avenue in the middle of nowhere. Maybe we should start reconsidering that. Maybe it's time to alter course a little bit. And and that's the kind of stuff that I'm bringing to the table. Running for mayor here.
Yep, there's a bike lane 2 blocks over from me down on the side street. Doesn't need to be there, right? And then you're going down, 118, and there's no bike lane, right? Put a bike lane down 118, sure, right?
Sure.
That road needs it, 100%. Put a bike road down 128 or whatever. No.
Yeah. Where people are going to use things, where it's going to benefit majority of Edmontonians, and for everybody, right? Or where we're going to we need to prioritize the things that we're using and where we're using them, what the people need, what Edmontonians want, and that we can afford. I mean, we have a $3.8 billion operating budget this year, right? It's a lot of money, and we just got to put that forth, wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. When did you decide, like, hey, I could run, I could do this, and I might have a chance, if I put my hat in the ring? Well, the answer is always no if I don't, but when did you decide, like, hey, I want to run, I'm gonna do it, and these are my ideas, and to go up against guys like Tim Cartmel and Andrew Knack, like two heavyweights, right? It's like, how did you decide, what, I'm gonna run against these guys, and what, David versus Goliath this,
Oh, thank you for the David versus Goliath reference. But I know the exact moment I decided I was going to run, and that's when I was doing surgery. Like I said, I was a pediatric dental surgeon. I was grinding away at some teeth, fixing up some cavities. And a couple of anesthesiologists I work with just casually mentioned that last toe they cut off. And this was in the wintertime. This was in November. And I said, come again? Would you mind, describing what just happened? And how are you so nonchalant about that? They're like, oh, well, this happens all the time. I found out that day that there was 110 amputations last year in our homelessness population. And like I was mentioning before on coffee, I mean, I've been around the world working on development, sustainability, helping people outside of Edmonton break thresholds and poverty thresholds. And I was like, excuse me, this is happening here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Beds, sir, at the hospital are $3,500 a bed per night. And, forget about the surgery cost, forget
Yeah.
about the anesthesiologist that's now held up, not providing another Edmontonian surgery for maybe waiting for cancer
Yep.
or anything. You know what I mean? Like we're waiting for surgeries. And so this is an obvious win-win-win solution here. I mean, if I don't accept the fact that we cut off 110 limbs last year just due to frostbite and are
No,
homeless. That's a big indicator we're
sure.
doing something wrong. And then I start digging a little bit that week and I find out, well, how many people are going to the food bank? And then I understand that it's 47,000 unique Edmontonians are using the food bank every month, up 50% in the last 2 years. And I said, what the heck is happening here? So, sir, that was the time I said, you know what? I'm running for mayor because there's something askew here. And so that was the moment, to answer your question. Yeah,
There's
everybody has that one moment.
There, and we were talking about that too, 47,000 that are willingly using it and just, finally at the point, right? How many people are sitting at home needing to use it, but are like, pride's in the way, right? And,
Mhm.
it's a thing, right? Like how many people need it that aren't using it?
Absolutely. And another thing that you'll see if you ever go by the food bank is you'll see a lot of newer cars there. You'll see BMWs, you'll see Mercedes, you'll see newer Hondas. And you know what? When you inquire, the same people that used to donate to the food bank are now using the food bank. So now when we get back to property taxes going up, 80 to 100, $200, depending on your property assessment value every month, you know what? That makes a big difference on people. And that means that probably if there's 47,000 people using the food bank, that means there's probably about 200,000 of us that are really having to work hard even to make it ends meet. What's that doing to family life? What's that doing to Edmonton? Are we building these big projects? This is not the time for vanity. This is the time to buckle down and, set things straight. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, I put on social media before we came on here that I was recording a podcast with the future mayor of Edmonton today. And I'm like, anybody got any questions? What do I ask a guy like that, right? And
Right.
like I got some pretty interesting ones here.
All right.
The number one question that everybody wants to know is, what are we going to do to make sure McDavid resigns here next year?
Well, we put this joke out there, and I do this with my friends. I go, you know why we didn't win the cup this year? I said, Omar wins, Mayor, then the Oilers win, right? We're going to put that as our number one platform. So we'll tell McDavid, don't worry, Mehdi. Once I'm mayor, you'll finally get that cup. You deserve it. You deserve it, man.
That's crazy. This one says those bike lanes make it hard to turn trucks onto the lane. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Are his plans to install more stupid pieces of art? Will his plans on crime/drugs? Or what are your plans on crime and drugs? Can you get rid of the stupid 40 kilometers an hour? Bring back bags that aren't paid for. And that was a
Wow.
big one.
Yeah.
The paper straws and the paper bags, a big one for, even me.
Mm-hmm.
I live on the north side. If I go to McDonald's down the street from my house, I'm paying like 50 cents for a bag. But if I drive the 10 minutes to Sherwood Park,
Yeah.
I don't pay money. I don't pay extra money for a paper bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's one of those. It's not the reason I sold my practice to jump in to run for mayor was the single-use bylaw, but it is a thing that a lot of people have come up to me about, and I wish to honor the wishes of Edmontonians. So I'm going to represent what Edmonton wants,
Yeah.
and that was a big one. So I started doing some digging in terms of our bylaws here, and the single use is regulated there or legislated at the federal level. There was an appeal on that and repeal on that, but Edmonton made our own bylaw, and in that we added the $2 for the reusable bag and 25 cents for the paper bag. And most Edmontonians are very upset at this, and so I started doing some digging and looking at the net to the environment on this. And those reusable bags you get at Sobeys, the bigger ones, they're a little bit heavier duty. They take about 20 times more plastic than your regular reusable bags. And then you look at human behavior, and most people were actually reusing these bags at home for for garbage bags or to clean up the poop. Now you're having right? Yeah, right. Most of us did. I know I did myself. I don't just like to throw them away. And essentially, what's happening now is that people are buying them off the shelves because you still want your garbage for your washroom, you want your garbage, or you pick up the poop. So you're buying them anyway. Another aspect of human behavior is what's happening is, I don't know about you, but I always forget these bags, right? And I end up buying them. I've got about 95 in my basement. I just threw away 300 last
Yep.
month, right?
Yep.
So the net environment has been horrific. Sorry, the net of this has been horrific for the environment. And again, I'm not making this up. I mean, you can look at UK journals of environment, and this stuff has been talked about. It's not working. Part of it's human behavior and trying to, adding maybe a dollar figure to that. All that resulted in is that it's really angered a lot of Edmontonians that now have a whole bunch of plastic bags. And I've been looking for a lot of uses for these bags. I'm thinking about making clothes out of these. What do you think?
Do it. I'd buy it. I'd hang it on my wall.
Right? Or we should fill the potholes. If everybody wants to donate their bags back, let's fill all the potholes with these bags.
That was another thing. Where did that go? I believe that was something about here. I don't know if you follow Alberta Memes on Facebook.
No, but I will now.
No, Alberta Memes, good guy. He says, will he promise to keep taxes lower than a city pothole?
Potholes are one of those things that always comes up, and as far as I can remember as an Edmontonian, every spring we complain about the potholes.
Yeah.
I often joke about, I want to bring Edmonton back to the days that all we complain about is the potholes. Potholes, again, I'm not just, trying to be facetious about it. I believe that we should build our roads right, of course, and patch them fast. I mean, we live in an environment where we have a big freeze thaw cycle, and depending on the environment, we're going to have to deal with it. But, we got to get on it and patch it fast and bring our money back to our core services that Edmontonians want. Good garbage removal, which, has been done pretty good. We got to patch those roads fast. We've got to build things people want, right? And keep the money there, not these pet projects that I keep talking about that keep coming up, right?
Yeah. What are okay? I have my thoughts on the new LRT line going in over to the West Ed Mall and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Broad thoughts are, public transit's going to help. We've got 50,000 Edmontonians coming here every year. So we want to keep our transportation network moving. But, outside looking in, even before I decided to run for mayor, it's not really that safe on the LRT. If you're building multi-billion-dollar projects, if you yourself, say you were building a multi-billion-dollar warehouse for yourself, wouldn't you want that warehouse secure? Wouldn't you want that place, especially if you have customers coming, like as a business?
Yep.
The way we check tickets is like how we do in the 1800s. We let you on the train first, and then we ask you for your ticket, And I've rode the LRT quite a bit. I'm usually dressed in a suit when I'm on my way to work or to the office downtown. But I never get asked if I purchased my ticket or not. What actually happens is you get security asking a certain archetype of people, which is quite discriminatory, which is creating hostile environments. And there's obvious solutions here to make this a little more secure. You go to a movie theater, they ask you for proof of purchase. Do they not?
Yeah.
That's a simple way to put it. But, people obviously want to amalgamate somewhere, which is why I keep talking about housing first solutions and giving people a place to actually go, right? This is ultimately what's happening here. So back to the LRT, I'm not against investing in infrastructure that's going to get us moving, but you'll find 17% of Edmontonians, these are polls that have been done, refuse to ride it because they don't feel that it's safe. I've got a good business plan in that. You secure it up, we're going to start making some money and, maybe get it going. So I'm not against it. I'm just against dumping all these billions of dollars before making it secure.
Yeah, man. No, that's huge, dude. I know where I am with that. It might be a little controversial or whatever, but where I am with that, it's moving the riffraff around the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
West Ed Mall is already not like a very safe place either anymore. West Ed Mall's kind of like gone downhill a lot, right?
It has.
And then you make the LRT go there, right? And now you're moving people that are downtown that can't move anywhere from there. Now you're just like saying, hey, you know what? During Oilers game day, move all these people out of here, get on that train and go over to the mall,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. It's increasing security. But again, remember what I was saying back in research. You get decreased security in the city when food insecurity and home insecurity goes up, man. It's, and that's what I'm talking about, upstream solutions. Like, you're always going to have crime. like I'm not saying it's an on-off switch here. Like we've always had crime in Edmonton, but the level of crime we're having, or the perception of the safety that we're having, is not what we're used to. So.
Are you gonna? Another question was: are you gonna have a slogan like "Mega Make Edmonton Great Again"?
It's time to shine.
There you go.
Here, you want to hear my? I'm as a ring announcer. That is part of the slogan as well. That it's time to shine.
Let's hear it.
I think it's a good segue. Here we go. The time has come. The time is now. It's time. It's time to shine. Now, there you go.
That.
That's the slogan. It's time to shine, and let's shine brighter together. I strongly believe in collaboration. I strongly believe in coming together to accomplish common goals. And I believe that we can do that as a government. I believe we can do that as a city. We know our city has actually lost almost complete relationship with our provincial government. Our big papa giving us a lot of funding for a lot of projects. And I that's another thing. I just looking outside looking in. There's a lot better ways to do things. It's this political posturing that goes on is not necessarily the right answer here. So.
I agree. Speaking of time to shine, you, sir, have your own podcast.
I do, yeah. So part of running for mayor, I thought it was a very good way to platform, and the magic of a podcast. And just as we are right now, we're in the moment and we're having a great discussion. And so I decided as one of the angles, get some experts on and discuss and learn and grow together and bring different people together to introduce them. And, mission accomplished. I've, the podcast alone has brought some great people together with some great initiatives, and I've learned a ton. And, you get to put it out there on a platform. Same with social media. I'm new to social media, long time observer. You won't find a lot of posts from me in the past. Could be my age, or, could be just who I am as a person. But, running for office, I got a little more public, and I've seen the value of that, of putting some messages forward and working together on things. So yeah, it's called Shine Together, an Edmonton podcast. Thanks for the plug-in.
Oh, dude, I've listened to a couple episodes, man. You got some great episodes in there. You had that comedian, the two. I think they were both comedians, weren't they?
Both comedians. So yeah, the premise of the show is I bring, I allow one person to essentially be the host and one person to be the guest. Really, we have a conversation all the ways, but then we have a little bit of an organic discussion. And we had Wayne Jones. He's a comedian from Edmonton, and he's gone to do things with Ford versus Ferrari and CBC, This Is Us, and Hockey Hall of Fame things. And he moved out to Ontario, but I've kept in touch with him. And Ahmed, we call him Ahmed two times, because but a local comedian here in Edmonton. And we hit it off at a Kahoot game when I was emceeing it for a school project. And, comedy, I find is a very good way to communicate with people. It's one of those platforms where you can kind of push the envelope a little bit, open up people's hearts and minds, and sometimes get some messaging out. So yeah, I did do a comedy podcast as well. And we talked about plastic bags and potholes and paper straws and
the new bylaws
and the Edmonton Oilers, and just had a real Edmontonian talk without all this legal jargon and infrastructure words of development and fiscal this and that, just a bare bones daily Edmontonian discussion about, the things that bug us day to day. And, so we get to do that a lot on that show. Yeah.
I like it, man. I've watched a couple episodes now, and where can people find that?
You can find it on YouTube. YouTube's the first place I'll publish it, and then it'll follow up on Spotify usually a couple weeks later. But YouTube, if you type in Shine Together and Edmonton podcast, it comes right up.
I get 80% of my listens, 87%, 80% of my listens come from Apple.
Oh, wow.
Man, I'm telling you, you want to grow that podcast, start putting it on Apple.
All right. Well, I'll take it from the man that's been doing it for a while. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's good advice.
I get a lot on Apple. Then it comes, the second most is on Spotify, right? And then, this the other little ones here and there, but they all add up, right? And yeah, man, what really, when I went looking for your podcast, because I thought I saw a clip of it, and then we talked about it a little bit. And I went looking for this thing. Man, like the camera angles, the couch, the nice studio, right? I was like, man, I've been doing this for over 2 years now. And like, I record wherever I can. If I'm in camp, I'm in a hotel, I'm at home,
Right.
I record where I can. And that's kind of been, like the identity of the podcast, right? You never know if I'm going to show up in the back seat of a pickup truck or if I'm going to be, in a camp room somewhere. If we're going to be recording, we called it the Iron Board Sessions a couple summers ago. I was in hotels and I was trying to, put it at good angles and stuff like that. And the only thing that was there that I could set it on was an iron board. Right. So, every podcast I recorded in that room, it was part of the iron board sessions. And then, I started using it at every hotel that I went to. Where's the iron board? I'd go looking for the iron board first. Good. It's in here. I got to record a podcast on the iron board. Right. So, yeah. And right now, like I'm in my kids' playroom, right? I've actually set it up on my kids' play couch here. It's sitting up on a toy bin, and parts of their play couch are holding my laptop up, and I'm sitting in this white fluffy chair that we use when we sit around the fire outside, and anything just to be comfortable while we're having a conversation, right?
Well, I have to share something with you. I'm sitting in my kids' playroom right now as well. That's what dads do, man. It's a reality of life, So, I like to tell people I'm your regular Edmontonian. I actually rent my house still. I grind and, I work, I've worked, like I said, multiple jobs, and, we just keep it real. We don't need to be fancy. It's as long as we get that organic messaging out. And that's really the magic of a podcast. I was fortunate to get into that studio, Planet Sound, if anybody's wondering, they rent out some studio time. I did it more just because of, the time constraints I'm under. They help me cut it. They help me edit. All the camera angles are ready to go. And I can just focus on, as I'm sure, with editing and getting things going, it takes a bit of effort and a bit of work, right? So.
Yeah, man. Speaking of which, do you know what viscosity is?
Yes, I do. Yes.
What's viscosity in your own words?
Viscosity. Well, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about motor oil, it's how thick the oil gets depending on its temperature.
Yeah. So what I'm talking about is something similar, on the drilling rigs. Sometimes that fluid going downhole has to be, thick or not as thick, and they gotta, make it viscous or less viscous, right? And the Mudman sponsors the podcast, and he deals in the thickness of your load, right? Take that however you want to take it.
I took it multiple. I'm a guy, man. So yeah.
Yeah, take it however you want to take
it. We take it how we want to take it, man. What's that?
How thick is your load?
I'm about a 10W 40, I'd say.
Shit, man, we looking at the next Rob Ford here,
Man, that's funny, man. You're funny.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So the Mudman sponsors the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And he deals in viscosity for all your drilling fluid and laboratory testing equipment needs. Visit www.mudmanmarket.com. I love that guy, and he got me hooked up, in the very early goings of this podcast. At first 14 episodes, he's like, let's go on a 5-episode run together. I'll get you a headset and a microphone, and we'll make the podcast sound great. We'll sharpen it up. Mm-hmm. Great. I needed that. And then last summer, a year ago, probably around now here, about a year ago, he bought us a brand new MacBook Pro. And before that, we couldn't edit. Nice. We could not edit. It went out how it came, right?
Right.
And, if there were technical difficulties, it did not matter. You were listening to that organically. Right. So now on the MacBook, I record on the MacBook, and, I don't need a headset and a mic anymore. The microphone is amazing on the MacBook. Mm-hmm. And I edit. It's so fast and easy. It's like boom, 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 right? And shout out to Gord from the Second Act podcast. He got me introduced to Audacity, free program. I upload the audio file into Audacity. I zoom in, and you can see where there's little gaps in like dead air, I guess. Mm-hmm. And you can highlight it, delete, parts of conversations you don't want in there. You can highlight, delete. You can make the sound better. You can add in little sound effects and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, man. And then I use CapCut to put out my teaser trailers and stuff like that, man. So shout out to the Mudman, because without that guy, this podcast would be we'd still be slumming it,
Shout out. I hear you. So shout out to the Mudman. There you go.
Yeah, man.
10W40, buddy.
40. Yeah, man. And then another recent I guess sponsor of this podcast would be Rock Rooster Footwear. Rock Rooster is PPE, like work boots, right? And I think it's pretty cool. I like to give back, like you like giving back to your city, right?
Absolutely.
Rock Rooster Footwear, man. I've been working with different companies for PPE, and discounts on PPE. You can go to Brasco Safety, they sponsor the podcast, and you can go to NWT Safety and use my code Frost10 usually. Well, with Rock Rooster, it's Frost15, and you save 15% on footwear, right? On steel toe boots, and it's rockroosterfootwear.com down there, and use code Frost15. Man, comfortable work boots. I haven't been to work in a while, but I'm going back soon. So I've been wearing these bad boys around the house, just breaking them in, because I know what that's like. So yeah, man, it's the podcast, man, it's coming together. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's just the natural progression of things, right? I'm not really making much money off of it, but I am saving people money. So.
Hey, well, right on. So yeah, if you maybe we'll throw a plug in for Rock Rooster Footwear. If you want Rock Rooster Footwear and you want 15% off, it's Dick15. Dick15 at Rock Rooster Footwear. All right, is that right?
I think it's Frost15. But
Frost15. I know it's that Dick Frost, but Frost15. There you go.
Hold on, let's see here. Let's get the right one in here. I'm pretty sure it's Frost15. Yeah, it's Frost15. Let's retake that. Let's do it again.
All right. So get your boots at Rock Rooster Footwear. To get 15% discount, you get it with Frost15. Frost15 for Rock Rooster Footwear. rockroosterfootwear.com.
I love that, man. You got yourself a voice there. I love that.
Thanks, buddy. Throw a plug in there, man, to Rock Rooster, man. What a sick name, man, Rock Rooster. You got to buy the boots. I'm going to go buy some Rock Rooster boots just for that name, Rock Rooster Footwear. That's awesome.
They're cock boots.
10W40, man. Put it all together.
That 10W40, bro. I love this guy. I got a question for you, right? You're running against Tim Carmel and Andrew, right? Mm-hmm. Like I said, two heavyweight guys. What are you offering? What's different that you're doing that they're not doing? What makes you stand out from the Tim Carmels and the Andrew Knacks of the world?
Well, if I had to summarize that, and to our listeners, I guess I'd say I'm not a career politician. I'm not in it for a long career in politics. I mean, I'm a pediatric dental surgeon. I'm your regular Edmontonian, and I'm your regular Edmontonian that's upset by how the city's been run. I mean, you look at the $4.4 billion in debt, not really balancing the budgets, how they call it, and continuing raising our property taxes. I'd say I'm very different, right? So, I'm not in it for a long political career. I'm not here to climb a political ladder. If you look at, the best predictor of future success is past success, and the best predictor of failure is past failure, and the track record of these guys speak for themselves. So I'm not in it again for a political career. I'm in it for success, and in contrast, I've achieved success. I came from homelessness all the way up to pediatric dental surgeon. That's been my life. My life has been about service, and I want to bring that same mindset to Edmonton. So I'm very different than these guys. Yeah,
that's beautiful. I can't wait to see Omar Mohammad signs out on the people's lawns, I guess you want to call them. I don't know what I was going to call it.
They call that, lawn signs. Yeah.
You and I had a conversation about that, and I was joking around about how you're like, I'm going to start getting some Dick Frost signs out there.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was joking around, and I don't know how funny you'll find it, but I was joking around when I was telling people, I'm going to go have coffee with the future mayor of Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be recording our conversation because this is how Dick gets into politics. Like, I'm going to record our conversation, and I'm just going to be like, what was that you said? And then I'm gonna like hold it over your head like some movie blackmail stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, this is how Dick gets into politics, like from the patch to politics, and
Well,
yeah.
welcome. I think you're in it that we're having the discussion right now. But as a person, I'm pretty open book. One of my greatest skills, I'd say, if I had to, assess myself, would be that I do not get embarrassed very easily. I actually can't remember the last time I've been embarrassed. So that might be a hard play with me.
Buddy, I wouldn't be able to have a podcast where I talk about dick jokes
Yeah,
with
I know.
Tim Cartmel and Andrew Knack. I can guarantee that. You know what I mean? I'd probably make a comment about cock rooster and fucking the thickness of loads, and Andrew Knack and Tim Cartmel would probably like shut this down, man. We're done.
You know what? You should try. I think that'd be funny.
I should. You're the first politician I've had, and you're not really a politician. You're getting there. Like you're certainly running for one, but like you're the first. I think person that I've had that on my podcast that is running for any sort of office.
Well,
and that's pretty crazy.
That's quite the honor, then. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You made me laugh today, and now my head's big now.
Which politician? One? Which one?
I'll leave that for up to you to decide.
Shit. Oh my God. I'm talking. Hey man, when you make it to the big office, man, you gotta have me over for lunch, Like I don't know where the mayor sits and goes and has high tea or whatever, but like I gotta be there. I gotta come sit down and be like, the CTV news is like Edmonton City Mayor Omar Mohammad today was spotted out having lunch with Dick Frost, like
Very good. Yeah, we could have some tomatoes. I don't know what would we eat for lunch? I imagine cucumber sandwiches of some kind. I don't know why that.
I don't like tomatoes. I can't do it. I had a dental surgery a few years ago. My molar came out. I had a cyst on my jawline. I had to pop the molar and then pop a hole in the cyst, suck it up. And I left a hole there for a little while. Dental packing once a week for 6 weeks. I got don't ask me how I know what Vaseline and dental stuff tastes like, right? They packed it in there, and every time the taste was starting to go away, it was time to put a new one in for 6 weeks. And when that came out, the hole was still there, but it was closing up, and I had to like clean it out with a syringe while tomatoes would get in there. And like I got the full on taste of tomatoes, and it wasn't good.
That was it. Yeah. And since then, no, you don't like tomatoes. Is that the point when you don't like tomatoes anymore?
Yeah, I think that's where I can, pinpoint my dislike of tomatoes. Back to that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'll eat your tomatoes. I still like tomatoes.
Okay. Well, have you ever been to Leopold's?
No, I haven't.
Leopold's on White.
Leopold's on White. That's where we'll have lunch, sir. It'll be a date. We can even do it without me being mayor.
Oh, I'm in. Yeah, it's right across from what's that there? It's right across from Hudson's.
Very good.
Right down the block from the Old Strathcona Farmers Market.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, man. I got to know, and I don't know. I don't want to like jinx it if I ask this, but what are your plans if this doesn't work out for you? What does Omar do? What's Omar's future goals if being a mayor isn't in the cards?
I'll just continue being myself. I mean, if you look at my my resume, I'm always a doer and a go-getter. I'm just going to keep on doing, and we'll see what time will tell. Right now, I'm 100% into the campaign. I'm going to be the next mayor of Edmonton, so I'm 100 in that. And I'll tell you, I'll decide the day of whatever the outcome is of that, where I'll go from there. But I'll tell you one thing: it'll always be with service. It'll always be with advocacy. It'll always be trying to be humble and surrounding myself with people that are better than me and moving on. So I guess I'll just be myself. I'll continue to be myself.
Omar's got my vote. That's for damn sure. That's awesome.
Very good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No, that's good, man. Like, but if you do, if it does go that way, you're not done, right? You're going to run again. You will come back, right?
Well, we're all about outcomes. So, I do have a purpose and an outcome, and I'm trying to better Edmonton. If I feel at that point, I'm my own harshest critic. If I feel that, my visions and my abilities and do not are not no longer going to be there, then I'll move on. But I mean, yeah, we'll decide at the time, And right now, I'm all in, and I know what we're bringing forward is what Edmontonians want and representing Edmonton. So
here's a quick question. I've always wondered this, right? You're all in on this. What
yeah.
kind of toll does that take on like a politician's family, right? When you're in campaign mode and it's like go, 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 go. What's the toll? How's the wife? How's the family? What do they think of all this?
Well, that's the privilege that some of us have. So I have a very wonderful wife who's been very patient, who's been supportive. Obviously, even though I'm the face of things, you don't do anything alone. I mean, I have friends behind me. I've got financial campaign support behind me. I've got a lot of people with a lot of ideas. I've been overwhelmed with the number of support. But as on your family, any politician will tell you, it is an all-in thing. It's constantly on your mind. It is a great responsibility, and when you take it serious, it does take away from family life, and that's a big part of why I gave up my practice. A lot of moving parts in a dental practice. It does provide for my family. It does give me financial stability with my family as well. But also the time from my family is all gone. So it is a really, really big give. Anybody that wants to jump into politics, first time for me. That's a very good question, a very empathetic one as well, because a lot of people don't see that. But my wife believes in what I'm doing. She knows what we're trying to accomplish. My friends believe in me and what I'm trying to accomplish. And you see the support, and we'll find out on election day if Edmontonians also see this. So
Yeah, way, man. I'm pumped. I asked that question, right? Because you see it all the time everywhere, but that's also one thing we have in common. I'm not running for mayor or politics or anything like that, but working away, has a big impact on my family, right? The social media side of things, where I'm constantly, making videos, and I go out and I get recognized places, and then the podcast, right? So, I'm also, putting a lot of time and effort into this that could be over there with them. And like you said, I understand that so much, how you don't do it alone, right? My wife is such a big supporter of everything we do here, and she works effortlessly in behind the scenes as well. She helps me with the podcast stuff. BetterHelp sponsored the podcast, and they did pay a little bit, right? And so she's over there doing invoices and stuff like that. She's over here. I'm working with a restaurant in town who pays a little bit, and she's doing the invoices over there. She's coming up with content ideas for me, right? She's like, hey, can we fit this into your schedule today? We need to do this today. We need to do that. You're not going to be home till this day. Let's do that, right? And then of course, the economic engine of our family. That's her, man.
That's awesome, man. And that's what you need, when you have that support, that's a huge privilege. And I realize that even, being at where I'm at in my life, I have a privilege to run for mayor. And that it's not just an economic thing. It's, that support mentally, and that support from, people being a little patient when you step off for, a couple of days because you're reading about some tax levies and you need that information, that kind of thing. So yeah, support's been huge. I definitely owe her one. If she's listening to this podcast, she's probably going to hold me accountable. So
yeah, man. Hey, brother, I can hear your kids in the background a little bit, right?
Oh, yep. That's them. Yep.
You know what? I don't want to take any more of your time, and you've already been very gracious with your time. So you know what, man, I got one question to ask, one last question that I always end the podcast with.
Sure.
And we spend the whole hour joking around and talking, asking how thick your load is, and shit like that. And then we end it with a banger. And Mount Rushmore has 4 of the most influential people up on the rock. If you could have your own Mount Rushmore, 4 people you look up to, inspire to be, or that have inspired you, who would they be and why?
Oh, wow, man. That's a pretty good question. I would put my father up there for one, because he's always grinded, and he always did what he could. It was all that effort. It wasn't really, much of how much he did in terms of the outcome, but all that he did, that he always gave is 100%. So my dad's going up there, right there. Second person would be Brian Smith, a doctor who used to work from the Peace Corps. He's in Guatemala. He started his own charity, and he brings care to hundreds of thousands of people. He's increased the birth rate there. He's one of the gems in my life. Another one's actually a local hero who's unfortunately going to be moving, and that's Dr. Abdullah Saleh, a surgeon at the Stollery, who's brought in clean drinking water to hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. Through entrepreneurship, he's working on affordable housing worldwide. So that'd be another person that I'd bring. Jan Foster Cole out in Spruce Grove. She'd go up there. She's I call her Mama Jan. She's I don't want to say she's 80, but she's around there. She's a young soul. One of those people who always gives back to everybody around her. A super genuine soul. Is that how many am I at so far?
That was 4, man. But I don't know if you know Mount Rushmore, but Mount Rushmore was originally designed that the original guy, he put 4, the creator, he put 4 up there, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but you can tell in pictures it's very small, right? As if there's room for more, right? And the original plan was, these are the first 4. We're going to continue building. Well, I think it was like World War II broke out or something, and he went to war. He died. And his son took over, and his son was like, well, now it's up to me, right? And he said that nobody fit the bill of greatness that belongs up on that rock since then. So I don't know who runs it now. I don't know what's going on with it now, but, that was powerful, right? That, nobody has shown an example of that kind of greatness since then, right? So.
Well, I think there's been a lot of, I think everybody inherently is good. And, and I always, back to the collaboration, I'm like nonpartisan. I get along with everybody. I realize nobody's perfect. I always say everybody has something to say, but that's not what I look for. Everybody has something to offer. And, it's, that's what you got to get out of humanity is inherently good. And I think there's room for everybody up on Mount Rushmore.
Damn.
Yeah.
Man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast, taking time out. This is my baby, and we have a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of time. We're over 2 years into where we're coming up on 150. We're only a few weeks away from episode 150, man. And at episode 50, I tried to get Mike Rowe on. On episode 100, I tried to get Mike Rowe on. Right? We're not there yet. We're still got work to do. So I'm going to continue trying for Mike Rowe. But we're coming up on 150, man. And what comes after 150? 200, right? I know that's still a long way off. That's over a year away. It's a year and a half away. But hey, you never know, right?
Mike Rowe, 150. Come on down.
Mike Rowe, 150.
Mike Rowe, 150.
Hey, Omar, thanks for coming on the podcast, brother.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it. And hope looking forward to that lunch. Let me know when you're free.
Absolutely, buddy. Hey, stay frosty.
WD-40, buddy.